Right, this is our beef locker where we keep all our beef and allow it to age or mature, which is a very important process. It's allowing the enzymes time to break down the connective tissue, which results in more naturally tender beef. The longer we age the meat for, the more tender it's going to become. How long can we age it for? Well, in this room we've aged it for more than 200 days in a vacuum bag, obviously wet aging. Dry aging, not quite as long. But the process really gives us tremendous flavor benefits, especially with dry aging. And this piece I'm holding in my hand here is a wing rib, which has been dry aging for more than 30 days. And you can see there's a lovely dry outer patina formed here. That's just a very, very thin layer, which we'll trim off before serving it. But that really allows then the meat to get the flavor not only off the bone, but having lost or losing its meat juices in that aging process. By the way, we lose up to 40%, which just really shows you how much more intense those flavors are going to become. So not only, again, the flavors from the bone marrow, but from the loss of the meat juices, which then makes us more reliant on the intramuscular fat or the marbling, which will melt in the grilling process, giving us that tremendous flavor and putting the juice back into the steak. So that makes for a really delicious dry-aged ribeye. This one over here is grass-fed from the farm Greenfields. We do have our beef from Chalmar beef as well, which is grain-fed. So we have both options, grain and grass-fed. And I think it's really important to just ask, not that one is necessarily better than the other, but it's good to know the origin of your beef. Field to fork is how you should be eating, choosing your beef, knowing the source, knowing where it's been kept, knowing how long it's been aged for. Now we know that aged beef not only gives us more flavor, but will be a lot more tender, naturally and slowly. Another interesting fact about our wonderful South African beef is that it only contains approximately 11% of fat, compared to the fat content of American beef, which is roughly 33%, and European beef, which is produced about 23% fat. So really, South African beef is lean. And that's been over the last 30 years we've been fed lean beef, and more we're looking for pockets or farmers that are able to produce us beef with more intramuscular fat. If we take a piece of fillet, here there are two in a bag, but you can see clearly marked with the date of harvest. We have important traceability, so there again you can rest assured that it's coming from a good source. Fillet is going to yield for us a wonderful tasty piece of beef that's a great carrier of sauces. Not necessarily to stand on its own, but as a carrier of sauces, fillet is a wonderful cut. Next up is the sirloin. Sirloin is that long muscle that runs down the back. Here's a beautiful sirloin that's in a vacuum bag, so wet aging. Again, we just have a look at the unique date of harvest over there. And sirloin is then, in my mind, the most versatile, because as a roast it's fantastic. As a steak, it's incredible. And when you had that braai and you want everyone to have a similar looking piece of meat, there's nothing easier to cut than a sirloin. So once that's trimmed, sirloin is a fantastic cut. Then at the bottom down here, then we have some rump. Rump is next. Now rump, a little bit more complex. Rump is a piece of beef that does give us wonderful external fat. This top piece of the rump, we call the picanha of the rump. And then we have the muscle on the underside. Our beef all arrives Swiss trimmed, so it's very easy for us to portion and control. The rump, we split down the center and cut our steaks from that. Rump, wonderful flavor. Flavor compares very favorably to that of sirloin. The best advice I can give would be to understand what you want to do with your beef. If it's going to be a quick grill, then you're going to choose a cut of meat that's got a bit more intramuscular fat. If it's a long roast, that process calls for a cut of meat that's possibly been aging longer, so you have more intense flavor. But really, look a little deeper. Look a little deeper in the animal and understand that you got the cheek, which is fantastic. I know we're talking steak, but the cheek you got to try. Or there's the oxtail or the shin, which makes an amazing stew. So understanding that the primal cuts only amount to 16% of the whole animal, we should look a bit further and get into the rest of those amazing beef cuts.